The silent observers. Grand Overseer Zixthar of the Keldric Empire stood motionless before the massive quantum observation screen, 7 pairs of compound eyes fixed on a small blue-green planet rotating slowly in the display. Behind him, 12 high counselors waited in reverent silence, their crystalline exoskeletons glimmering under the ambient light of the Imperial Observatory. So this is the world that has caused such concern among our intelligence division. Zixthar finally spoke, his voice a harmonious blend of tones that resonated through the chamber. It looks remarkably unremarkable. High Intelligence Director Veshmore moved forward, her translucent appendages manipulating the controls to zoom in on Earth's surface. Appearances deceive, Grand Overseer. We have been monitoring this world for 73 cycles, and what we've discovered defies all established patterns of evolutionary development. The observation screen shifted to display sprawling human cities, transportation networks, and energy production facilities that, while primitive by Keldric standards, showed remarkable ingenuity given humanity's short technological history. These humans have progressed from primitive agriculture to rudimentary space travel in less than 3,000 years, Veshmore continued. No other species in our catalog of 10,000 civilizations has shown such acceleration. Most take at least 20,000 years to achieve similar development. Zixthar's mandibles clicked in mild interest. Accelerated development is unusual but hardly concerning. Their technology remains centuries behind our most basic systems. I fail to see why this warrants my attention. It's not just their technological pace, Grand Overseer. It's their adaptability. Veshmore brought up new images showing humans living in environments ranging from scorching deserts to frozen tundras. They thrive in conditions that would kill most species. They recover from catastrophes that would end other civilizations. And most concerning of all, they learn from failure at an unprecedented rate. The screen shifted again, showing military conflicts throughout human history, each followed by dramatic technological leaps. Every time they face extinction, they emerge stronger, Veshmore said. Our predictive models cannot fully account for their developmental trajectory. And there's something else. She hesitated. Speak freely, Director, Zixthar commanded. Our observation drones have detected unusual energy signatures emanating from locations deep within their planetary crust. Signatures that suggest technology far beyond what they openly display. Murmurs rippled through the council chamber. War Minister Kreldak stepped forward, his battle-scarred exoskeleton creaking with each movement. You suggest they're hiding their true capabilities. Impossible. Our surveillance is comprehensive. Not impossible, merely improbable, Veshmore countered. We've lost 16 observation drones in the past cycle alone. The humans attribute these to equipment malfunctions or natural phenomena, but the pattern suggests deliberate intervention. Zixthar turned away from the screen, towering over the assembled counselors. What do you propose, Director? The Keldric Empire spans 27 galaxies. We have subjugated species far more advanced than these humans. If they pose even a potential threat, we should simply eliminate them and harvest their world for resources. I advise caution, Grand Overseer, Veshmore replied. There are anomalies we cannot explain. I recommend continued observation before taking action. Zixthar considered this briefly. You have one more cycle, Director. Determine if these humans are a threat, a resource, or merely an oddity. Then we decide their fate. Dr. Ilara Chen frowned at the data scrolling across her quantum terminal deep within the Olympus complex, a massive facility buried beneath the Mariana Trench. As lead science director for Earth's Defense Initiative, she had spent the last 15 years analyzing the alien objects found in Earth's orbit. Running final verification on recovered drone components, she announced to her team. Crystalline computing matrices, biosynthetic power systems, and what have we here? Her fingers danced across the holographic interface, isolating a tiny component no larger than a grain of rice. Subspace transmitter, confirmed Dr. Aidan Karlov, her deputy director. More advanced than the previous models. They're improving their surveillance technology, or adapting to our countermeasures, Ilara replied, a hint of admiration in her voice. These Keldricks are persistent. I'll give them that. She stood and stretched, her eyes roaming across the vast laboratory where dozens of scientists from every nation worked together in rare unity. On the central display, a three-dimensional map showed hundreds of alien observation points surrounding Earth, all identified, all monitored, and many now compromised by humanity's silent counter-surveillance program. Director Chen, came a voice from her communicator. General Rivera requests your presence in the war room. Priority Alpha. Ilara's heart quickened. Priority Alpha meant only one thing. Their timeline had accelerated. 10 minutes later, she stood before a gathered assembly of military leaders and government representatives from the United Earth Defense Council. General Rivera, a stern-faced woman with silver-streaked hair, nodded to Ilara as she entered. Dr. Chen, please brief the Council on Project Prometheus status. Ilara took a deep breath. Project Prometheus is at 97% readiness. All planetary defense systems are operational. Our quantum disruption fields can be fully deployed within 30 minutes. The fleet remains our only vulnerability. We need another 2 weeks to complete the final integration of the gravitational manipulation drives. We may not have 2 weeks, Rivera replied grimly. Our deep space array has detected a massive object decelerating at the edge of our solar system. Its energy signature matches the Keldric profiles in our database. Murmurs spread through the assembled leaders. They're coming. Asked President Okonkwo of the African Union, have they discovered our preparations? Unknown, Rivera answered, but we must assume our timetable has been compromised. Ilara's mind raced through scenarios and contingencies. If they're sending a single vessel, it might be diplomatic in nature. The Keldricks typically deploy massive invasion fleets when they intend conquest. That's the pattern we've seen in the refugee reports from other systems. Then we have an opportunity, said Chairman Lai of the Asian Confederation. If they believe we're still primitive, we maintain the advantage of surprise. Exactly, Ilara nodded. We continue the deception. Let them see what they expect to see. A divided planet of relatively primitive humans who have barely reached their own moon. General Rivera's expression remained grave. And if they've discovered our true capabilities, then we implement Midnight Protocol, Ilara replied quietly. And may God help us all. High Emissary Trelvor of the Keldric Empire stood on the bridge of the diplomatic vessel Inevitable Harmony, watching as the small blue planet grew larger in the view screen. As the Empire's foremost expert in first contact protocols, he had overseen the incorporation of 300 species into the Keldric hierarchy. Some joined willingly, seduced by promises of technological advancement and protection. Others required military persuasion, but all eventually accepted their place in the natural order, with the Keldricks at the apex. Approaching Earth orbit, High Emissary, reported the navigation officer. Their primitive detection systems have identified our vessel. They are attempting communication using electromagnetic radiation. Trelvor's mandibles clicked in amusement. How quaint. Respond using their protocols. Inform them we come in peace and wish to establish diplomatic relations. They are directing us to a space station in orbit around their moon. It appears to be their most advanced facility. Very well. Proceed as directed. Maintain passive scans only. Let them believe our technology is only marginally superior to their own. As the Inevitable Harmony approached the lunar space station, Trelvor studied the structure with mild interest. It was crude by Keldric standards, a collection of cylindrical modules connected by access tubes, with primitive solar arrays extending like wings. Exactly what one would expect from a young species taking its first steps into space. The docking procedure was laborious, requiring the Keldric vessel to adapt to the station's rudimentary airlocks. Finally, Trelvor led a delegation of 5 diplomats and 2 security officers into the human facility. They were greeted by a diverse group of humans, dressed in formal attire. A female with dark skin, and close-cropped silver hair stepped forward. "Welcome to Artemis Station. I am Director Sophia Washington of the United Earth Space Agency," she announced in carefully practiced standard Galactic, surprising the Kelder delegation. "We are honored by your presence and open to peaceful dialogue between our worlds." Trelvor recovered quickly from his surprise. "I am High Emissary Trelvor of the glorious Keldric Empire, which spans 27 galaxies and brings peace and prosperity to all within its embrace. We have observed your world for some time and deemed you ready for first contact." Director Washington smiled diplomatically. "We are grateful for your interest in our humble planet. Perhaps you would join us in our conference chamber to discuss the nature of our future relationship." As they moved through the station, Trelvor noted the obvious technological limitations: exposed wiring, mechanical doors, and cooling systems that relied on liquid circulation rather than quantum temperature regulation, all consistent with a civilization barely 3 centuries into its industrial development. In the conference chamber, representatives from Earth's major nations waited. Trelvor activated a holographic display showing the vastness of the Keldric Empire, highlighting the benefits brought to member species through their benevolent oversight. "The Keldric Empire offers you protection, advanced technology, and a place within our cosmic hierarchy," Trelvor concluded. "In exchange, we require only loyalty, reasonable resource tributes, and acceptance of Keldric guidance in your further development." He noted the exchange of glances among the humans. They were clearly impressed by the display of Keldric power, as all primitive species should be. Director Washington spoke after a brief consultation with her colleagues. "Your offer is generous, High Emissary. However, humanity values its independence. Perhaps we could discuss a mutual exchange of knowledge and culture instead of the arrangement you propose." Trelvor's inner eyelids narrowed slightly. This was unusual. Most species, when confronted with the might of the Keldric Empire, eagerly accepted protectorate status. "I understand your hesitation," he said smoothly. "It is natural to fear change. However, I should clarify that our offer is not optional. The Keldric Empire has determined that Earth will join our collective. The only variables are whether you join willingly with all associated benefits or through alternative means." The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Director Washington's expression hardened almost imperceptibly. "Are you threatening Earth with military action if we decline your offer?" Trelvor spread his 4 upper limbs in a gesture meant to be reassuring. "Not a threat, Director. Merely a statement of cosmic inevitability. The Keldric Empire has brought 300 species into its embrace. Some required persuasion, but all now prosper under our guidance. We would prefer your willing participation, but your preference is not required for the outcome." A tense silence filled the chamber. Then, unexpectedly, Washington smiled. "I see. Thank you for your candor, High Emissary. We will need time to consult with our planetary leadership regarding your proposal. Perhaps 48 hours would be sufficient." Trelvor considered this. Such deliberation was typical among species faced with incorporation. They often needed time to accept their inevitable future. 2 rotations of your planet will be permitted for your discussions. We will await your response." As the human delegation departed, Trelvor turned to his security chief. "Increase passive scans of the planet. I sense something unusual about these humans. They show less fear than expected." In the corridor outside, beyond Keldric hearing range, Director Washington activated her secure communicator. "Midnight protocol authorized," she said simply. "We have 48 hours. The unexpected response. Grand Overseer Zixthar reviewed the preliminary report from High Emissary Trelvor with growing irritation. The diplomatic mission to Earth had not proceeded as smoothly as expected. While most species immediately recognized the futility of resistance, these humans were showing concerning signs of independence. "They requested time to consider our generous offer," Zixthar muttered, mandibles clicking rapidly in agitation. "As if they have a choice in the matter." War Minister Kreldax, who had advocated for immediate conquest, rather than diplomacy, shifted his massive frame. I warned the Council that diplomacy was unnecessary. We should simply deploy the fleet and be done with it. Patience, War Minister, replied High Intelligence Director Veshmore. Something about these humans doesn't align with our models. Our surveillance indicates they possess only rudimentary global defense systems and a minimal space presence, yet they show little fear when confronted with our power. Zixthar rose from his command throne, towering over his advisors. Prepare the invasion fleet. I tire of this uncertainty. If the humans accept our rule, excellent. If not, we will make an example of their world. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, the Olympus complex hummed with activity. For decades, humanity had prepared in secret for this moment. What the Keldricks didn't realize was that their surveillance had been compromised almost from the beginning. The crashed drones they attributed to malfunction had actually been captured intact, their technology reverse-engineered with the help of refugees from other worlds conquered by the Keldric Empire. In the central command chamber, Dr. Ilara Chen stood before the assembled military and scientific leadership of Earth. Midnight Protocol is now in full effect, she announced, her voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. All surface defenses are camouflaged and ready. The lunar defense grid is active but masked. Our fleet has been moved from the Mars shipyards to the designated deployment points in the outer asteroid belt. General Rivera nodded in approval. And our allies. The Arcturian resistance forces are standing by in the Kuiper belt, Ilara confirmed. The Proxima Centauri contingent will arrive within 12 hours. Most importantly, the quantum disruption network is fully operational. When activated, it will sever all Keldric communication and coordination systems simultaneously. President Okonkwo leaned forward. Are we certain this is the right course? The Keldricks have conquered hundreds of worlds. The risk to Earth is incalculable. With respect, Mr. President, Ilara replied, we've been preparing for this confrontation for 30 years, since the first Milesian refugees arrived with warnings about the Empire's expansion. Every simulation confirms our approach. The Keldricks expect either submission or primitive resistance. They cannot conceive of what we've actually prepared. Dr. Chen is right, added General Rivera. This isn't just about Earth anymore. It's about every species suffering under Keldric domination. If we succeed, we break the cycle of conquest that has terrorized this galaxy for millennia. As the leaders continued their strategic discussion, Ilara stepped away to review the latest intelligence. The Keldric diplomatic vessel remained in lunar orbit, but deep space sensors had detected a massive energy signature approaching from the direction of Proxima Centauri. The invasion fleet, right on schedule. Her communicator chimed. Dr. Chen, this is Director Washington from Artemis Station. The Keldric emissary is demanding an answer. Their patience is wearing thin. Tell them our world leaders are still debating their generous offer, Ilara replied. We need another 12 hours. They're insisting on 6, no more. Ilara quickly recalculated. That will have to do. Keep them talking as long as possible. 6 hours would be cutting it close, but it might be enough. The final elements of humanity's response were almost in place. 3 decades of preparation, trillions in secret funding, and cooperation among nations that had previously been enemies, all for this moment. High Emissary Trelvor paced the bridge of the inevitable harmony, his patience wearing dangerously thin. These humans were proving more difficult than anticipated. Their continued requests for time seemed designed to delay rather than seriously consider the Empire's offer. High Emissary, called the communications officer, we've received word from Grand Overseer Zixthar. The conquest fleet will arrive in 6 hours. We are to secure the humans' submission, or prepare them for immediate subjugation. Trelvor's mandibles clicked in satisfaction. Excellent. Contact the human representatives. Their time for deliberation has ended. On the view screen, Director Washington appeared, her expression unreadable. Director, the Keldric Empire requires your answer now. Will Earth submit willingly to our benevolent rule, or must we demonstrate our power more directly? Washington's expression remained calm. High Emissary, I've been authorized to inform you that Earth respectfully declined your offer of incorporation into the Keldric Empire. We wish to maintain our independence and forge our own path among the stars. Trelvor stared in disbelief. No species had ever rejected Keldric rule so directly. You do understand what this means? He asked, his voice dropping to a dangerous harmonic. The consequences will be severe. Your major cities will be destroyed as examples. Your leaders will be publicly executed. Your population will be subjugated by force. Washington nodded solemnly. We understand the threat, High Emissary. However, humanity has never responded well to intimidation. We have a saying on Earth, live free or die. We choose freedom, whatever the cost. Trelvor cut the communication, fury radiating from his exoskeleton. Prepare to depart lunar orbit. We will rendezvous with the Conquest Fleet and begin the subjugation immediately. As the inevitable harmony broke orbit, the ship's sensors detected unusual energy readings from Earth. Before the crew could analyze them, the readings disappeared. Probably primitive defense systems activating. The science officer suggested. Nothing that could affect our technology. Trelvor wasn't so certain. Something about this situation felt wrong, but he couldn't identify what. These humans were primitives, barely space-capable. Their defiance made no logical sense. 6 hours later, the Keldric Conquest Fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the solar system. 500 warships, led by the massive dreadnought Eternal Dominion, carrying Grand Overseer Zixthar himself. The fleet represented enough firepower to reduce Earth's surface to molten slag within hours. On the bridge of the Eternal Dominion, Zixthar received Trelvor's report with mounting fury. They rejected our offer. These primitives dared to challenge the Keldric Empire. His voice resonated with harmonics of rage that made subordinates shrink back. Their defiance is unprecedented, Trelvor admitted. I suspect they simply cannot comprehend the consequences of their decision. Then we shall educate them, Zixthar declared. Deploy the fleet in standard conquest formation. Target their largest population centers first. Once we've destroyed their major cities, their resistance will crumble. As the Keldric fleet advanced toward Earth, their sensors detected no significant defensive measures. A few primitive satellites attempted to track them, and radio communications from the planet indicated growing panic among the population. This will be over quickly, War Minister Kruldax observed with satisfaction. They have no meaningful defenses. High Intelligence Director Veshmore, however, remained troubled. Something isn't right. Their behavior doesn't match our predictive models. These humans should be attempting negotiation, not accepting destruction. As the fleet approached Mars orbit, Grand Overseer Zixthar opened a communication channel to Earth. People of Earth, this is Grand Overseer Zixthar of the Keldric Empire. Your leaders have foolishly rejected our generous offer of incorporation. Now you will witness the price of defiance. After we have reduced your major cities to ash, you will submit to Keldric rule or face extinction. This is the natural order of the universe. The response came not as panicked pleading, but as a single text message transmitted directly to the Eternal Dominion. Midnight Protocol activated. Seconds later, chaos erupted throughout the Keldric fleet. Ship after ship reported critical systems failures as their quantum communication networks collapsed. Weapons systems went offline. Navigation controls locked. Even life support systems began to falter. What is happening? Zixthar demanded, his harmonics shrill with alarm. Unknown, Grand Overseer, replied the increasingly frantic crew. Some kind of quantum disruption field is interfering with all our systems. Before they could attempt countermeasures, the space around the fleet distorted. Hundreds of ships materialized seemingly from nowhere, vessels of unknown design, their hulls gleaming with a material that seemed to absorb rather than reflect light. Impossible, breathed War Minister Kruldax. The humans have no fleet. Our intelligence confirmed. Our intelligence was wrong. interrupted Director Veshmore, her voice hollow with the realization of their catastrophic miscalculation. A communication request flashed on the main screen of the Eternal Dominion. When Zixthar authorized it, Dr. Ilara Chen's face appeared, her expression calm and resolute. Grand Overseer Zixthar, I am Dr. Ilara Chen, Commander of Earth's Defense Forces. Your fleet has been immobilized by our quantum disruption technology. Your weapons are offline. Your communications are severed. In simple terms, you are at our mercy. Zixthar stared in disbelief. This is impossible. Your species is primitive. You barely have spacecraft capable of reaching your own moon. Chen smiled slightly, a carefully maintained illusion. Grand Overseer, we detected your surveillance drones 30 years ago and have been feeding them selective information ever since. What you're seeing now is the real Earth defense capability. The view screen split to show massive orbital platforms emerging from behind Earth's moon, their surfaces bristling with weapons unlike anything in the Keldric arsenal. More ships appeared from the asteroid belt, moving with impossible precision to surround the paralyzed Keldric fleet. But how? Zixthar demanded. No species develops this quickly. We had help, Chen replied simply. As she spoke, representatives of other species appeared beside her, beings that the Keldrics recognized from worlds they had conquered decades or even centuries before. You thought you destroyed the Nilesian civilization, Chen continued, but survivors reached Earth 28 years ago. The Arcturians you enslaved. They'd been working with us for decades. The Proxima scientists whose research you appropriated. They found refuge here and helped us prepare. Zixthar's compound eyes widened as the full implications became clear. You've been planning this, preparing for us specifically. For a very long time, Chen confirmed. Earth became the gathering point for refugees and resistance fighters from across your empire. We shared knowledge, technology, and a common purpose to end Keldric domination once and for all. War Minister Kreldak surged forward. You cannot hope to defeat the entire Keldric Empire. We span 27 galaxies. Do you? Chen asked quietly. The view screen changed again, showing simultaneous uprisings on hundreds of Keldric-controlled worlds. Subjugated species were overthrowing their oppressors, using technology similar to the quantum disruption field that had disabled the Conquest fleet. As we speak, synchronized rebellions are occurring throughout your empire, Chen explained, coordinated through quantum entanglement networks you cannot detect or intercept. The age of Keldric dominance is over, Grand Overseer. Zixthar sank back onto his command throne, his exoskeleton seeming to collapse inward as the reality of his situation became clear. Thousands of years of Keldric expansion and conquest ended not by a superior force from beyond, but by the very species they had subjugated and dismissed. What do you intend to do with us? He finally asked. That's not for me alone to decide, Chen replied. Representatives from every world in your former empire will determine the future governance of this galaxy. But I can tell you this, the cycle of conquest and domination ends today. What replaces it will be built on cooperation and mutual respect, not subjugation. As Chen spoke, transport vessels approached the disabled Keldric ships, carrying mixed crews of humans and representatives from formerly conquered species. Your crews will be evacuated safely, she continued. You and your high command will face justice for crimes against sentient beings, but the Keldric people themselves will have the opportunity to join the new Galactic coalition as equals, not rulers. How? Zixthar asked, his once imperious voice now uncertain. How did humans advance so quickly? How did you coordinate a galaxy-wide resistance without our knowledge? For the first time, Chen's expression softened slightly. Because of what you never understood about us, Grand Overseer, humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology. It's our diversity. Our fractured history, which you saw as weakness, forced us to innovate in countless different directions simultaneously. She gestured to the coalition of species standing with her. While your empire pursued power through conformity and control, we embraced 1,000 different approaches to every problem. We failed faster, learned quicker, and adapted more readily than any monolithic empire ever could. Chen's eyes held Zixthar's gaze through the viewscreen. But most importantly, we built bridges instead of walls. We sought allies instead of subjects. We valued difference rather than fearing it. That's something your empire, for all its power, never understood. In the months that followed, the former Keldric Empire transformed with remarkable speed. The human-led coalition had planned meticulously, positioning forces to secure critical infrastructure and prevent destructive last stands by Imperial loyalists. 6 months after the failed invasion of Earth, representatives from over 300 formerly subjugated species gathered at a neutral space station to form the founding council of the Galactic Cooperative. Dr. Ilara Chen stood before the assembled delegates, her expression solemn but hopeful. Today marks a new beginning, she addressed the diverse gathering. Not just for humanity or for the formerly oppressed worlds of the Empire, but for all sentient life in our galaxy. We come together not as conquerors and conquered, but as equals with unique perspectives and contributions to make. In the audience sat a delegation of reform-minded Keldrics, their once intimidating forms now humbled but dignified. They had renounced the ways of the old empire and pledged to help repair the damage caused by millennia of exploitation. The mistakes of the past need not define our future, Chen continued. The Keldric Empire believed that power came from domination and homogeneity. They were wrong. True power and true civilization comes from cooperation and diversity. As Chen spoke, holographic displays showed the transformation already beginning across the former imperial worlds. Restoration projects healing damaged ecosystems, cultural revival movements reclaiming lost heritage, and joint scientific ventures combining knowledge from dozens of species. There will be challenges ahead, Chen acknowledged. Wounds this deep take time to heal. Trust must be rebuilt. Justice must be served. But together, we can create something unprecedented, a true multi-species civilization where all can thrive. The first act of the newly formed Galactic Cooperative was to establish the Remembrance and Reconciliation Commission, tasked with documenting the crimes of the Empire while creating pathways for healing and restoration. Former Grand Overseer Zixthar and his high command faced trial for crimes against sentient beings. The evidence was overwhelming. Thousands of years of systematic oppression, genocide, and exploitation documented in meticulous detail. Yet even in justice, the new cooperative showed its different approach. Rather than execution or revenge, Zixthar and his commanders were sentenced to spend the remainder of their lives assisting with restoration efforts on the worlds they had damaged most severely. 5 years after humanity's emergence onto the galactic stage, General Rivera stood beside Dr. Chen, now Coordinator Chen of the Galactic Cooperative, on the observation deck of Earth's primary space station. Below them, the blue-green jewel of humanity's homeworld shone brightly, now surrounded by the visible infrastructure of an interstellar civilization. The Cassiopeia Initiative reports success, Rivera informed her. The last of the forced labor camps in the Andromeda sectors have been liberated. Chen nodded in satisfaction. And the ecological restoration on Proxima Centauri IV. Ahead of schedule. The Keldric scientists have been surprisingly helpful. Their knowledge of the damage their mining operations caused has proven invaluable in reversing it. They're finding redemption through restoration, Chen observed. As it should be. Rivera gazed out at the starfield. Did you ever imagine, when we first detected the Keldric probes 30 years ago, that it would end like this? Not precisely like this, Chen admitted. There were many who pushed for us to strike preemptively, to answer the Empire's cruelty with our own. It took great restraint to choose a different path. A path that saved billions of lives, Rivera noted, and potentially changed the course of galactic history, Chen added. The easy path would have been to become conquerors ourselves, to replace one empire with another. The harder path was to create something truly new. As they spoke, a delegation of Arcturian and Keldric scientists passed by, engaged in animated discussion about a joint terraforming project. Former enemies now working as colleagues. That, Chen said, pointing to the diverse group, is humanity's true victory. Not defeating the Empire, but helping to create a galaxy where such empires become unthinkable, where cooperation proves stronger than conquest. Beyond the viewport, the stars beckoned, not as territories to be claimed or resources to be exploited, but as frontiers of discovery to be explored together by a united galactic civilization, built on mutual respect and shared wisdom. The age of empires was over. The age of cooperation had begun, and humanity, the species once dismissed as primitive by the mighty Keldric Empire, had shown the galaxy a better way forward, not through superior force, but through superior vision.